afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Bright Ideas Lunch Hour program. Today's session will discuss how to connect at a conference, 25 tips to maximize your attendance and activity. This discussion is sponsored by the Intellectual Property Law section of the New York State Bar Association. Feel free to unmute your audio and enable your cameras as we encourage you to jump in and engage in the open discussion after the program. At this time, Bill Samuels, Intellectual Property Law Section Chair, will introduce our speaker. Bill?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bright Ideas Lunch Hour. This month, we have the pleasure of hearing from Janet Falk, Principal at Falk Communications and Research, where she advises lawyers and law firms on media relations as well as issues related to attracting new clients, remaining top of mind with clients, and with referral sources and recruitment of associates. I've had the pleasure of knowing Janet for a number of years, and she's a tremendous resource when it comes to considerations that I was not necessarily trained in during law school, such as, how to approach a conference, maximize the time there, and get the most business out of it. So on that note, I'm going to hand it off to Janet. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Bill and Charmin, for inviting me today. It's my pleasure to speak with the group. So if we could go to the first slide, I'm going to talk about 10 tips for connecting at conferences. I know the title slide here says 25 tips, and that's because you will receive a worksheet of the 25 tips plus an ebook, which has even more details about the 25 tips. And it also has some templates for emails that you can use to reach out to the people that you meet at the conference. Okay, next slide, please. So let's think about what are your objectives in attending the conference. I'm sure quite a few of you are planning to mingle with the hordes at the INTA conference coming up next week in San Diego. If we were face-to-face, as you will be at INTA, then we could have a conversation about what are your objectives. But since we are on Zoom, I'm going to give you the answers to the question. What are your objectives? Next slide. So naturally, you want to think about, next slide, please. Naturally, before that, slide 7, before that. Okay. Naturally, you want to think about, if you're going to a bar association event, how you're going to get an update on what's happening in the law with intellectual property, copyright, trademark issues, and so on. But if this were an industry event, say the entertainment industry, the fashion industry, the biotechnology industry, pharmaceuticals, you would be getting an update on what's happening there and what is keeping your clients and referral sources up late at night. So now that we're at the conference, we're going to learn from the speaker. What is the reason that person is at the front of the room? It's because they have their finger on the pulse of what's happening in the industry or in the law, and you are there to take note and learn from them. Now, assuming this is a bar association event like INTA, you will want to earn CLEs, right? So that this will be towards your credit and you will be building on your knowledge base and also keeping up with the requirements of being a licensed attorney. Another reason to go to events, and we were just talking about this at the start, is to keep in touch with your contacts and your referral sources. Who is going to be at this event? It's going to be your current clients, and you'll get FaceTime with them. It's going to be your lapsed clients, and it's going to be your potential clients. And of course, it's going to be your many referral sources. And who are they? If they're other attorneys, they're going to be the people who were on the other side of the transaction or the other side of the litigation, the people who you worked with at your prior firm, the people who were on a bar association committee with you at NISBA. It's going to be people who are in allied professions, also interested in the particular industry. So these are some of the reasons you want to get up to date, to learn from the speaker, to earn your CLEs, and to keep in touch with the people that you already know. But take the opportunity to build new connections. There's going to be thousands of other people at INTA who you've never met and who are potential contacts, clients, referral sources, and so on. And finally, why are you going to San Diego or Las Vegas or Miami? You want to get out of town. You're in a high pressure law firm environment and you want to kick back and enjoy yourself. So before you go to the conference, I want you to be thinking about what are your objectives and how following these tips that I will share with you can help you to achieve these objectives. Next slide, please. So before you go to the event, it's a great idea to visit the website of the host organization or the conference itself so that you will learn who are the attendees, who are the speakers, what are the events that are planned, and you can arrange your schedule so that you will know when you are booked to attend certain sessions and when you might have a little free time so that you can arrange independent meetings with people that you would like to get to know better. Next slide. So this is the first tip, and that is if it's a membership organization like a bar association, look through the membership directory. There is so much information available there. You can identify other people who align with your practice. So if you are someone who focuses on technology, you might be able to identify other IP attorneys who work in software development or who work in biotechnology. You can see who might be potential referral sources because they work at a firm that overlaps with yours but doesn't handle exactly the kind of litigation or exactly the kind of transaction and licensing, for example, that your firm and your practice handles. If you're going to a distant place like San Diego, you might want to identify who are the other members who are in Western New York, who you might want to get together with. So peruse the membership directory in advance and figure out who might be interesting people to meet. Next slide. And now that you've identified these people, you're going to introduce yourself and say, I'm going to attend the such and such event, and I look forward to meeting you there. So you can already be setting up appointments in advance. If there is only a few days time in advance of the event, as we face now with INTA, then you might want to mention that you will wear a distinctive article of clothing because everybody else is going to be in a navy suit, right? I mean, we are attorneys. So you might want to wear, if you're a man, a red pocket square or a green tie. If you're a woman, you might want to wear a colorful scarf or a red blazer. Wear something just different enough, still in keeping with your status as a professional attorney, but make it so that people will be able to find you and identify you so that you can have that conversation in the crowded event. Next slide. Bring your business cards. There's always an opportunity to say to the next person, I've so enjoyed your conversation and I'd like to keep in touch with you. Do you have a card? Always ask for the card before you offer your card in return. Now, probably you've said to this person, there's someone else at my firm that you should talk to, or I recently wrote this client alert, or I recently read this article, or our firm has a newsletter. So now that you have gotten the person's card, you will be able to make a note of what it is that you have mentioned to them so that you will have an opportunity to follow up with them. Now, for those of you who have a paralegal or a secretary as an assistant, here is a great tip that I learned from one of my clients. My client takes a picture of the person's business card and hands it back to them. Then she emails or texts the business card picture and sends it to her assistant and says, please send Bill the such and such, the name of the partner at our firm who handles this kind of litigation, or the client alert, or the newsletter, or the podcast, whatever it is, so that that evening, when Bill goes back to his room, he's going to get from the assistant the email with whatever it is that you promised him. And the next day, he's going to look for you at the meeting and say, Janet, thank you so much for sending me the client alert, the name of your partner, and so on. I'm going to pursue this further. So bring your business card, ask for someone else's business card before you give them your own, and make a note of whatever it is that you promised to send them, and either take a photo and ask your assistant to send it to them, or make a note to yourself that you're going to follow up after the event. Next slide, please. I like to give away something that will help people to remember that they met me. So I have a small card. It's the size of a business card, and it's called 5 Fast Tips to Maximize a Media Phone Interview. It has my contact information, and it has the 5 tips. Now, you might not want to give away something that informative, but you can give something else away, something small. Now, we all have a pen that we got from our insurance agent or that we got from the attorney who prepared our will. So you can give away a pen if that's what you have. A pen doesn't have very much real estate and space to put more than your name, your phone number, and your website URL. So think about something else, like I have this small business card that you can give away that someone can keep track of you and then get back in touch with you. Next slide. I like to look at the agenda and find out who's going to be speaking. And then I say to myself, what am I most interested in hearing about? And are they going to discuss X? So Bill, let's imagine that you're speaking at an event that's coming up and someone gets in touch with you and they say, Bill, I'm very excited to hear about your remarks on topic A. Are you also going to discuss point 2? And then, Bill, if you were to get an email like this from someone who's coming to the conference, what would you say and what would you do? Bill, I can't hear you.
Right, okay. That topic would come front of mind for inclusion.
You're going to talk about whatever it is that you do in intellectual property. And I say, this subject is so interesting to me, Bill. And are you going to talk about aspect A? And I'm asking you this question by email. And how would you respond to an attendee who wants to know what you're going to talk about? And are you going to address this specific topic?
I mean, I would offer to meet with them to talk, I think.
Great. So I would be cultivating a relationship with you, right? Even before we get to the conference, you're going to want to meet me and discuss this topic. And what if I said, Bill, I know you're not going to be able to talk about this issue in great depth. Would you like me to ask you a question so that you can further develop your idea? Because I know your time is very limited as a speaker. How would you feel about planting a question in the audience?
I guess I'd be open to it.
Yeah, why not?
Sure,
I mean, you as an attendee would go up to the speaker at the end of the session and say, Bill, I really enjoyed your remarks. I'm so glad that I was able to ask that question because I could see that people wanted to learn more about this. And then you would say, Janet, thank you for asking that question because people really related to the issue, and I'm glad I was able to develop it at further length. So this is why you contact the speaker in advance, because you begin to develop a rapport with the speaker, and you can ask them if they're going to address a certain topic, and you can ask them, would you like me to ask you a question? So that will kick off the Q&A session and everyone will be able to get involved. Thank you, Bill. Next slide. All right, so now we're at the event. And what are we going to do? Silence your phone. Don't be that person that their phone goes off and everybody in the hall is looking at you saying, who's that jerk? Okay. And don't be looking at your Apple Watch for your messages. Don't be looking at your watch to find out what time it is. You are there to be present and to learn. Next slide. All right, here's 2 approaches to breakfast. I, for one, like to catch up with the people that I know because I am not a real morning person. I take a while to warm up. And so when I'm at breakfast, everybody's going to be running in, getting their coffee in Danish, and then going to the keynote address. So there isn't much time for conversation. So I like to sit with people that I already know and just kind of take the temperature and find out what's new at their firm and what's new in their practice. But there are some people who say, no, this is an opportunity to sit with complete strangers. This is an opportunity where you can just jump right in, you're there to network, and you're there to meet as many people as possible and start cultivating relationships. So those are your 2 options. Sit with the people that you know or sit with new people and begin to develop or maintain those relationships. Next slide. What happens when the panelists are leaving the dais and then the next row of panelists are going up to the dais? There's usually a little cushion of 5 or 10 minutes to make this change. Turn to the person next to you and say, what did you think of that speaker? Do you agree? Do you disagree? How are you going to communicate this to your clients? How are you going to share this with the other colleagues at your firm? How are you going to implement this in your practice? Or if it's someone who wasn't at your session, then they're just joining the group. Say, I see you weren't at the last session. Which session did you go to? What did they talk about? Did you learn anything worthwhile? So you are at this event to connect in person and to learn from other people. So take the opportunity to informally network with the people who are seated around you and exchange ideas. Next slide. Take notes at the session. As I just alluded, things are going to be applicable to your firm, to your practice, to your clients. Think about not only what the speaker is telling you, but what are the action steps that you are going to take when you get back to the office? How will this affect your personal life? How will this affect your clients? How will this affect your interactions with others at the firm and so on? Next slide. Okay, now we're back at the office and what are we going to do? Follow up. So think about the people that you met at lunch where you had a more extensive conversation than you had at that run-in, run-out breakfast meeting. Go to their website. Learn what it is that they publish in client alerts, in articles, blog posts, podcasts. Read whatever it is that they are offering, and then get in touch with them. Say, I've been thinking about our conversation. I read on your website what you said about X topic. I have a question for you. Have you considered this circumstance? Have you applied this idea to clients who work in this particular industry, and so on? So find a way that you can get in touch with the people that you met. You have their business card after all, and go to their website, learn what they have said, and then figure out how you can further connect with them and develop that relationship. Asking a question is always a way to invite a reply. Next slide. Think about the people that you met through the course of the event and get in touch with them, thinking about what it is that you would like to do next. Do you want to have another conversation with them? Will it be Zoom? Will it be coffee? Is there some other information that you can share with them on reflection after you've already promised to send them the client alert, article, newsletter, name of your colleague who works in that particular area? Make sure that you include that information so that it will be a way to spark their memory of what it is that you talked about, what it is that you might be able to do for them and for their firm. Next slide. This is an opportunity for you to build your mailing list. Do not automatically subscribe the people that you got their business cards. That is poor email hygiene. Instead, you can say something like this in your conversation with them, or, well, let's say in your conversation, you can say, I so enjoyed talking with you today. I'd like to keep in touch with you on a regular basis. I have a newsletter, I have a blog, I update it periodically or monthly. May I invite you to subscribe? And they'll either say yes or no. Or the alternative is to send them the latest issue of your newsletter, of your blog post, without saying then that they are subscribed. And say, this is something that I thought you would find interesting because it addresses whatever it was that we spoke about, or a recent matter that I handled, or a change in the law. If you are interested, you can subscribe here. And of course, here will include the link so that they can subscribe. So this is an opportunity for you to continue to cultivate the relationship by adding them upon their agreement to your mailing list. Next slide. You probably took some group photos with the people that you met. So this is a way that you can be in touch with them. Again, send them the photo and say, I really enjoyed my conversation with you and your colleagues from Cleveland. And this is an opportunity for us to get to know each other a little better. I travel to Cleveland from time to time and look forward to seeing you soon. And if you're going to post on your Instagram account or on your LinkedIn account, then you can name these people, put the @ symbol in front of their name so that it will appear and everyone will see that you are out and about and connecting with other professionals in the field. Next slide. All right, you learned a lot from the speaker, correct? You took notes, correct? You thought about 2 ways that you could implement the things that you learned from them. Now you're going to write up this information, tag the speaker, and say, this person, Pat Lewis, talked about X, and I found this interesting because it relates to something else in my practice, something in my firm, something in the industry, something that happened to a client of mine, and so on. Now, I once had the experience of posting information like this on LinkedIn. I went to a conference. It was a 2-day event on social media. And there were many leaders in the social media field talking about issues and best practices and so on. And at the end of the first day, I went home and I wrote up as many highlights as I could on my letterhead. I saved it as a PDF and I posted it on LinkedIn. And then I did the same thing the second day so that other people who didn't have the good fortune to attend this event in New York on social media and get the wisdom of these leaders in the social media field could learn from my experience what I had gleaned as opportunities and best practices. Now, Bill, you can imagine that this being on LinkedIn and being about social media and my using names of a lot of bigwigs and muckety mucks in the field of social media, these posts attracted a lot of attention. Take a guess how many views there were of these 2 posts with the highlights from this event.
500.
18,000. 18,000 for the first and 16,000 for the second, right? Because in those days, people cared a lot about learning best practices for social media, and people still care about that. So take that as guidance and a suggestion for yourself, right? Write a post that's going to highlight what it is that you learned from individual speakers, and then tag the speakers, and then see who replies and see who responds and see how you can further develop your relationship with the speakers. Next slide. By the way, of those 18,000, hardly anybody got in touch with me. So that was a little disappointing. Okay, so now that you've made this post about the great things that you learned from the speaker, you're going to send a note to the speaker and say, I very much appreciated what you learned. Look, here is a link to my LinkedIn post where I talked about the aspects that I found most interesting from your remarks. Here's how I'm going to implement it. Let's keep in touch. In fact, I have another question for you, right? So not only have you gotten in touch with the speaker in advance of the event, saying, are you going to talk about this topic? Not only have you asked the speaker, would you like me to ask you a particular question during the presentation? You are promoting what it is that you learned from this particular speaker. And why is that person at the front of the room? Because they have their finger on the pulse of what's happening in the law and in the industry. And you are now their best friend. Next slide. All right, so you've been very busy, right? You went to the conference, you met all these people, you gave out your business card and your follow-up material that is so informative, which has your contact information and so on, as I mentioned, or your pen. And now you have gathered all these business cards, made all these notes. Maybe you asked your assistant to help you to follow up. And now you're back in the office. So you have all the follow-up activity that you're going to do, sending the photos to the people that were in the photos, contacting the people that you had meals with, contacting the speakers, doing these social media posts, and so on. Plus, think about the email that has been accumulating while you were out of the office. Plus, think about the matters that you're working on that other people have been progressing in your absence, and so on. So there's just so much that you have on your desk. What I recommend is when you set up your out of office and say the conference is from Tuesday to Thursday, don't end it on Thursday. Set up your out of office that you're going to be out of the office on Friday, because that will give you a little more time so that you can send all your follow-up activity and catch up on your email and catch up on your pending matters, right? Now, all the people that you met, guess what? They're in the same pickle as you. They're following up with you and everybody else that they met at the conference. They're catching up on all their work. They're catching up on all their email. So what's the best thing to do here? Set a reminder 2 or 3 weeks from now when you get back to the office so that you will do a second follow-up. Do a second follow-up when people will have quieted down and taken care of all their follow-up and caught up on their email and caught up on their pending matters. Send a second follow-up so that you will be in touch with them and continue to cultivate that relationship. Now, remember all the people that we identified at the start of this meeting, people who you have an aligned practice with, people who are potential referral sources, people who are also from Western New York and are traveling with you to Inton, San Diego, or wherever it is might be. There are a lot of people that you might have gotten in touch with that you didn't get to see at the conference. Take the opportunity to say, you know, I'm sorry I missed you at the conference. Here's something that you might find valuable that I learned, and let's have another conversation and see if we can work together and share our ideas and best practices. Okay, so this should be part of your follow-up when you get back to the office. Not only do you execute with the people that you met, execute with the people that you identified but weren't able to meet, and set a second reminder so that you will be sure to follow up with them. Next slide. All right, so you can see I've numbered these tips from 1 to 25. I haven't talked about all of them because there are too many, but you will get a worksheet that lists all the 25 tips and you will get the ebook. Now, here's your bonus. I recommend that you bring your own name tag. Those lanyard name tags that dangle, they're always very uncomfortable. They turn around, they don't hang in a good place for a woman with a bosom, and so on. So next slide. What I like to do is bring my own name tag, and it has my name. Does it say Falk Communications and Research, a company that nobody has heard of? Of course not. It says, what does it say, Bill?
Public relations.
It says public relations. It says what I do. It would say, in your case, IP attorney transactions in pharmaceuticals, or IP issues in litigation for biotechnology or entertainment, and so on. If the name of your firm is the name that you have, it's not very helpful to people. So be like myself. Here I am with Paulina Rogowski, and have a name tag that you bring, your own name tag with a large font that has your name and your practice area, so that people will know immediately what they want to talk to you about. Next slide. So if you want to get more acquainted with me, if you think that I can be helpful with you, then I have a monthly newsletter, as you might expect. I have a lot of resources on my website to answer your questions about media relations, marketing communications, networking, going to conferences, and so on. All right. So what are our objectives going to the event? We're going to get an update on the law and what's happening in our particular industry, and take notes and learn from the speaker and figure out how we're going to share this with our colleagues and with our clients and with other people who would find it valuable. We're going to, if it's a bar association, earn CLEs by being present. We're going to take the opportunity to reach out in advance to people that we know will be going, or people that we might want to connect with, to get in touch with speakers and offer to ask them a question and learn more about what they're going to say. And we're going to find ways to develop new relationships with the people that we meet and share everything that we've learned. Next slide. So as I said before, this is my contact information so that you can be in touch with me. And I do offer a complimentary consultation, 30 minutes, to review your marketing ideas, your public relations, media relations, and networking ideas. So with that said, I'm happy to take your questions and be responsive.
Thanks, Janet. Anybody have any questions or thoughts on the topic?
Oh, I guess I do.
Good.
So do you think in your experience, because you said that, you made the post and it got 18,000 views, but hardly anybody contacted you. So, I mean, has it been your experience that it's really the people that you had a significant conversation with and then, follow up with that it's that kind of contact, on a more personal level that yields the most results from the events?
Yes and no. I would say that, and we were talking about this just before the start of the event, that, having that personal interaction is very valuable. But at the same time, I have had the experience of people who heard a podcast that I was on or read a LinkedIn article that I wrote months, even years later, getting in touch with me, and that has yielded new client relationships. So my view is that the more you put yourself out there and you share your content and you share your ideas, then it will come back to you. Maybe not immediately, but it will come back to you. So don't be shy about sharing what it is that you've learned at the conference. Is that helpful?
Yep, thank you.
So, Bill, let me ask you a question. Of these
Sure.
tips that I mentioned about reaching out in advance and so on, and how to follow up with people, are these things that you have done, or are these things that you would feel comfortable doing?
So there are things that I have done. Uh, I I can't say any of them make me uncomfortable. So what I would say that I think, is the gold coin that I'm walking away with is always remember, I think the follow-up
Mm-hmm.
at a later time is a brilliant move, and one that I fall flat on my face. I get caught up in work
Mm-hmm.
and don't do it in an organized way. So I'm walking away, uh, going into this week, thinking that that's going to be the change I make for myself going forward.
So following up and then following up a second time.
Yes, yeah,
Yes. Recognizing that the other person is just as busy as you are,
right,
and that's why they haven't gotten back to you.
right.
Yeah.
And I think you had touched on maybe include a little note on something substantive in that second follow-up, like, hey, I thought you might also find this widget matter interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, there are a lot of blogs that we're all writing, reading, and checking out that have a little bit of information that could be worth sharing with other folks.
Right, right.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure we all remember that scene in the movie Glengarry Ross with Alec Baldwin talking about always be closing. But the
yeah,
ABC here is always be connecting. Right?
right.
Always be connecting and connecting with value. So I'd like to hear from some of the other attendees if any of this is new to them or if any of this is a practical thing that they think they would be able to implement.
Anyone have any questions?
Well, I have another idea, which is it's always important to rehearse your elevator pitch. If you're meeting other attorneys, then they very likely know that you are an attorney and you know what your areas of interest might be. But if it's an industry event, then you want to make clear to the person what it is that you do as an intellectual property, copyright, or trademark attorney that would be most valuable to them in their industry. So make sure that you practice your elevator pitch in a way that you make yourself accessible to the attorney audience and to the non-attorney audience.
I have a question.
Sure.
Um, it's how do you recommend, and I guess it could be different for every uh, person, but communicating value, right? As opposed to lowest price or, um, you know, like, do you have any ideas on like what can communicate value in the best kind of succinct way?
Yeah, I like to use this mnemonic. It's called PARI. And it's a way of summarizing a matter that you dealt with or a case study. So P stands for the present situation or the problem. Right? Whatever that person's situation might be, as they have described it to you. You know, frequently in the such and such industry, people have this situation, people have this problem, people have the present issue. Then the A is the action that you took or the advice that you gave. So when faced with this current situation, this present situation, I gave this advice. Or when dealing with this problem, this is the action that we took. The R for PARI, the R is the result. As a result of implementing this plan, this is what happened. And even more important than the R is the I. What was the impact? Right? So we had a problem with people licensing our product in another country. So the action that we took was we found local counsel and we sent a cease and desist letter. So the result was that sure enough, they pulled their product and we didn't have to worry about that licensing issue anymore. But the impact was we began to look around the world to see if there might be similar licensing issues in other countries that we might not have been alert to previously. So the way you communicate value is to show that you understand the problem, that you have taken action or given advice to address the situation or address the problem, that you had this result in the short term, and then you had this impact in the longer term, which was to make sure that the problem didn't arise again, or that it was a way that you could save time, or was a way that you could save money, and so on. So I think that using that approach of understanding the person's situation and giving a synopsis of what it is that you did that addressed it, the result, and the longer term impact, I think that delivers real value and shows that you understand what could happen for their circumstance. And then they're going to want to, find out more about how you could help them in their particular circumstance. What do you think?
We have a question in the chat from James Rogers. A lot of seminars are expensive. How do you decide which seminars are worth paying for? Or are there tricks for getting in at a reduced price?
Well, one way to go into a seminar without paying is to be a conference speaker, right? So how do you get to be a conference speaker? You become known for your insight in a particular area. And if you have been to that conference before, then get in touch with the conference organizers at the event or soon after. Tell them how much you learned, what a great event it was, give a little critical feedback, not too harsh, and then say, this topic was not addressed. And I think that people need to know more about this. So when you are a conference speaker, then you either go for free or you go at a reduced rate. But conference speakers are not chosen just out of the blue, right? Conference speakers are people who have their finger on the pulse of the industry and what's happening in the law, as I said earlier. So find ways that you can be known as an authoritative resource on a particular conference, or on a particular topic. And then conference organizers will want to get in touch with you and invite you to speak. I had something happen to one of my clients a number of years ago. They wrote an article on the very obscure topic of directors and officers insurance dealing with stock options that were being backdated in Silicon Valley. So this goes back to 2006. And they published this article and they were invited to speak at this conference and they got 2 new clients out of it. So one way to go to a conference for less or for free is to be invited as a speaker. And the other way to make your decision is to decide for yourself. As we mentioned in the very beginning, what are your objectives for going to the conference? Do you want to meet people who are aligned with your practice? Do you want to meet potential clients? Do you want to learn from the speaker? And do you want to keep up with other people that you haven't seen for a very long time? And so on. So I think before you make your decision of which event to go to, you want to look at what are your objectives for attending the conference. Is this the only way or the best way to achieve those objectives? I hope that answers your question. Great to hear it.
I had one other thought to maybe add on that. And everybody's welcome to participate in the conversation. If you're going to a conference for a particular type of work that comes from the demographic. So let's say going to International Trademark Association conference, and you're hoping to get even just one trademark filing out of all the meetings that you're able to arrange. Well, weighing what is the cost for getting into and going to the conference versus the return on what is a filing going to cost and return. And then also, what kind of goodwill development relationship have you started uh, and engaged in with that third party, that client, or potentially, let's say, law firm from France? And uh, where could that relationship go? So that can be a method for determining whether or not certain conferences are worthwhile, while others not as much.
So we've been talking about developing relationships, and I forgot to mention, naturally, all the people that you're going to be meeting at the event, whether you sit next to them and during one of the sessions, or you have a conversation with them at the cocktail party or at the coffee break, you meet them at breakfast or lunch, or you've engaged with the speaker. This is an opportunity to build your LinkedIn network and to be connecting with these people on the LinkedIn platform so that you will be in touch with them, you will be top of mind for them, you will see each other's posts and so on. So remember to be socially and digitally present and connected with the people that you are meeting at the event.
Any other questions?
If it's a smaller conference, Bill, then this is something that you can try. Obviously, at INTA with thousands, you can't do it. But if it's a conference of fewer than 100, say, and it's being organized by a local practice group or a local chamber of commerce or a local bar association, then this is something that I like to do. I like to build a welcoming committee. And what I do is I go to the website of the host organization and I figure out who is the president, the vice president, the membership chair, and the program chair. And then I get in touch with them because, say, it's a local bar association. I say, I'm looking forward to seeing you at your next event. And then, because they are officers of the bar association, they will write back to me and say, Janet, yeah, we're happy to welcome you to the next event. We look forward to meeting you. And then when I walk into that room, I am not alone. I have a welcoming committee of the officers of the organization who want to meet me and who want to cultivate me as a prospective member of the organization. So this idea of identifying the members of a large organization in advance and saying you want to meet them works also on a smaller scale when you're going to a local bar association or a local chamber of commerce. So I encourage the people attending to warm up the room and build a welcoming committee by reaching out in advance to the officers of the organization, as well as the potential people that they might want to do business with, as well as the speakers. A little advanced preparation and email outreach can go a long way to launching a relationship.
Anyone else have any questions? Is anybody here going to be going to INTA? I know that's not accurate. Raise your hand. Okay. Well, if there are no questions or folks don't want to engage in further discussions, maybe we can give everybody the 10 minutes. Janet, this was a great presentation,
Thank you, Bill.
timely, and I definitely picked up a lot that I'm going to be using starting Saturday.
Great.
And I will keep you in the loop on how it goes.
Okay, and I hope everyone enjoys the 25 tip sheet that they're going to get and the ebook with the sample emails that you can be sending to reach out to people that you look forward to meeting and contacting the speakers in advance. Thank you, Bill, for inviting me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. All right. If anybody has any questions or wants to get in touch with Janet, you should have her contact information, or feel free to reach out to either Charmin or myself, and we'll make sure you guys get connected. Thanks everybody for coming. Have a great rest of the day.